Trim down a little bit here. But we're going to talk about euthanasia. Continue euthanasia. Once again, the online debate has exploded again. This time it was centered around a 17-year-old Dutch girl called Noah Pothoven or Pothoven. I'm really not sure. I do apologise. 17, such a pretty young thing, wasn't she? Very angelic. She passed away in a home, surrounded by her family, on a hospital bed in her house. And it was widely reported that this was legal euthanasia, something, which is legal in the Netherlands from the age of 12. Now, it doesn't mean they just hand it out like sweeties, but it is legal. But obviously on the internet, everything is the extreme. No context, no nuance. It's 12. Let 12-year-olds die. It's not quite how it works. Anyway, the rights and wrongs of euthanasia and how people perceive those quickly overwhelmed what is essentially the story of a young girl who felt incapable of getting over some events in her past where she was sexually abused. And the depression that came from that, she couldn't cope with it. At the age of 17, she felt that she couldn't cope any longer. The thing is, that was quite quickly ignored while the argument raged on as to whether a young girl should be able to make a choice to end her life or not. But it seems like all these people saying that keep forgetting something, that all these people have that choice anyway. You know? And how is it any better for someone to find their daughter hanging from a tree outside or throwing themselves in front of a train off a fucking building than having them die peacefully, I guess, and in a manner that has some level of dignity, as much dignity as it can ever be brought to death. And how is it better? I don't understand how people see this as preferable. Euthanasia, ban it. What if they go and kill themselves? Meh. What? You know, kids shouldn't have to check out violently. Young people who can't cope. Well, what do you think? They got a terminal illness that's hugely painful. Or in this case, a mental illness of depression, which is no less crippling than the physical ailments that people get. No less. Never mind all this, I'm feeling a bit depressed, I'll have a Prozac type thing. No, depression is a fucking killer. It's a black dog some people cannot get out of. And like I say, it's no less crippling than something like MS or locked-in syndromes or anything like that. But the thing is, everyone's screaming about euthanasia, and there's no evidence whatsoever that legal euthanasia was involved in this. Somehow it was misreported, predominantly in the British press, I believe, and maybe Australian press, that it was euthanasia because it is legal, and she did die in a bed in her living room. It turns out that she did contact several clinics about this, but she put out a statement on how they responded. I'll read this for you. They consider that I am too young to die. So even though it's legal at 12, doesn't mean they do it. They consider that I am too young to die. They think I should finish my trauma treatment and that my brain must first be fully grown. That lasts until your 21st birthday. It's broken me because I can't wait that long. I've written this twice. It's broken me because I can't wait that long. 17 years old. Couldn't hang in there. Despite the best efforts of a family of professionals, she could not carry on living. So she couldn't go for euthanasia. She obviously didn't want to put her family through something like the other forms of suicide. So in the end, Noah, that beautiful young woman, 17, simply stopped eating and drinking and said publicly, this should take no longer than 10 days to die. Destroyed young woman had to deny herself food and drink in order to die. Okay. People say could have taken pills, could have done that. What if there were no pills in that? I don't think she had the options. Now, naturally, the debate just rumbled on, regardless, about the incorrect claims of euthanasia, by the way. People didn't care that it wasn't that now. It had gone beyond her and into the euthanasia. I mean, it wasn't just on social media or the internet. It was on TV shows, this huge debate, and people taking this moral high ground, often religious high ground. It raised on that she should have been kept alive, forced fluids, perhaps sectioned. It's a tricky one, isn't it? Because every part of you feels that it's wrong to let someone die. And if it's someone you love, if you've got a child, you can't even consider this. I thought about it earlier while I was putting these notes together, and you can't even give it headspace. The idea of losing your kid to something you can't defeat, and it's not like it's a disease which you can try and fight, and there may come a point where they can't fight anymore, but you know that they fought. But with mental illness, you can't gauge that. There's no measure of how you're getting there. So at what point do we let people decide to die? At what point do we accept that they simply cannot, not just don't want to live, oh, I'm miserable, I don't want to be alive anymore, cannot live. They've seen doctors, they've seen professionals, I cannot carry on. Do we really let them deprive themselves of food and water so they lie in a bed towards the end, just waiting for their internal organs to shut down? Is that what we do? It's got to be uncomfortable and painful, for fuck's sake. But the thing is, what do we do? I was trying to think of my opinion. I've even asked myself the question, what is my bloody opinion on this one? Because I think it's very hard to look at logically. We say that people should be allowed to vote from 16, have sex at 16. You know, they should probably, you know, if you're going to let people go to war and fuck, you should probably let them smoke and drink as well at 16 if they want. You know, allowed to die? And not just for flimsy reasons. Obviously, you don't want people queuing up at the clinic because they've had a bit of a shit day. But with this history she had and she destroyed, would it not have been kinder? It's so hard because every part of me saying you can't let this young girl die, but she could not carry on. She desperately needed to die. What the fuck do you do? How do you just turn to God and say, no, that is wrong, or I think that shouldn't be allowed, therefore you just sit there and fucking suffer? Or that horrible bullshit of it's all just a test. It's all just a fucking test. I'm sure she was told that as well online. God is just testing you, my child. Your reward will be in heaven. What a lovely God. Had you raped? Several times. Wonderful. I don't know. Drone Tech is in chat. They're saying it's got nothing to do with politics. It's got nothing to do with religion. Well, sometimes it does, dude. That's why suicide is a sin. For some religious people, it does have a lot to do with religion. You can't give a blanket pass like that. If I talk about religious people saying that, it's because they believe. I think all the Abrahamic religions consider suicide to be a terrible sin. The Catholics will certainly see you burning in hell for it.
Drone Tech also said a little bit earlier that she needed help, not death.
They tried that, though. That's the thing, dude. I'm not talking about giving up on someone. I'm talking about years of therapy and someone saying, I'm not continuing. What do you do? Do you force them to live? You're saying she didn't know any better. You don't know her. I would feel the same about someone at the age of 21, but I'm 46. But we don't know her. We haven't walked a mile in her shoes. What if she was determined one way or the other? What do you do? Section them and force them to live until they have some kind of terrible breakdown? What do you do? Drone Tech saying force them to live, but who gives you the right to do that?
Yeah, I know, but surely at that point, sectioning it must be on the cards.
Well, I think the thing is they can't section people who go through all the reasonable scientific tests of being rational and lucid. To be sectioned, you have to be irrational. If she could show that she was reaching these decisions from a rational point of view, how can they section you?
Yeah, but you know what, though? The other thing is that you also don't know how she's been prepped, how she's... If somebody's already fucked her, then who knows what situation
See, to me,
going on.
I'm going to be honest, guys, as a parent,
Yeah.
I'd do everything.
Yeah.
But there must be a point, you know? This is an exceptional case.
A lot of shit changes in 5 years, though.
Yeah.
No one's like they were at 22 or
Exactly,
they were
but how do you
17.
tell someone when they're in that position where they're willing to starve themselves to death? Which is a terrible way to go.
Yeah.
How do you tell them? Come on, just another few years, you might be all right.
Bob Stew said the only people who know how major depression actually feels are the ones who have experienced it. It's absolutely brutal.
And it's different for everybody. Even people that have experienced it don't know what it's like for the next person. That's an important thing to remember as well. If you've never experienced it, it's very hard to judge.
Here's the other thing, though, in terms of you saying lucidity. You know, we're currently teaching kids that they're just fine as they are. There's this whole culture of not criticising them, not challenging them. You know, you're a beautiful, precious little individual.
I'm talking simply legally.
So no, but culturally, though, in terms of the way we're bringing them up now, they're the most fragile things on the planet. So something that might be deep, dark, horrible depression, because they've experienced a childhood where they've not been challenged or had any strength whatsoever given to them, then maybe to her there is no way out. Do you know what I mean? And I understand, you know, she was obviously raped, so there's circumstances there. But, you know, as Chappie said, my granddad flew a Spitfire at 17. You know, and I'm not saying we should be in a generation where we're, you know, fucking off at war fighting fascism, but there's a middle ground between the pathetic shite that we've got now,
like a generation
and
gap,
that.
innit?
Yeah, well, this is, you know, because life is so easy where, you know, someone not getting enough Instagram likes is now a reason to kill yourself. So
Yeah, I think in this case,
raped,
this was
it's
one
game
that's
over.
is quite extreme.
Yeah, of course.
Beautiful
yeah,
17-year-old girl. Okay? If she was 18, that'd be an adult. Would she be allowed to legally decide then if she could prove that she was legally sane? 'Cause remember, legal sanity is very clearly defined. How else can you judge things like this?
I think at 18, it's a whole different argument because you're grown up. You've got the right. If you want to kill yourself, you got the right. At 17, no,
Should have the right.
should have the right. Yeah, but
Even at
17,
18,
no.
we could argue that you're not actually fully mentally developed. And the doctors said that
Yeah.
to her themselves.
I agree with that, and you need help, and you get section. I mean, I don't know. It's hard because you don't know how the facts on the ground
Exactly.
fully.
See, what
from
we're
this.
doing and what people are doing in there, like Drone Tech in there saying 18-year-olds are idiots.
Yeah,
Blanket statement. It's tricky. What we're doing is judging an emotive subject.
my 18-year-old
emotions.
girl wants to kill herself. I will drag her by her hair
course
to
you
the
will.
mental hospital.
Yeah.
And even if she screams for a full fucking year while she's strapped to the bed, and even if she hates me for the
Here's
rest
the
of her
problem,
life,
though, Graham.
even if she fucking hates me,
But here's the problem.
at least she's got
from
through
that point
it.
of view.
Yeah,
Whilst
go
I
on.
agree with you,
Yeah.
and you know I'd do the same, you'd also do that to your 35-year-old daughter.
Yeah.
But what do you do if your 35-year-old daughter has a terminal illness
Well,
and wants to check out before?
that's a whole different set of circumstances. Then you're
Yeah.
dealing
But
with
isn't
that.
extreme depression also, in some ways, can be a terminal illness?
Possibly.
It's very tricky.
But I mean, yeah,
Well, sometimes if you've got a terminal illness, you might not want to prolong it. You might just want to...
Well, yeah, that's kind of the point of euthanasia. Yeah,
it
that's
depends on it. You know, at 35, there's a different set of circumstances, isn't there? Like if you don't have kids,
but you'd still drag your kid
fucking
to
go.
them
Yeah, of course I would.
if you had the energy.
Well, yeah.
Of course you would. Goes without saying. It's a huge... I mean, the main reason I brought this up was not to justify it. I can't. I'm a parent. I can't. I could never... I don't know how I'd allow that. But at the same time, would you just end up breeding kids that don't talk to you about this and just go and do it? See, it's never as simple as people make out. Oh, would you? No, fuck that. No. I'll put you in a mental hospital. Right, I'm not going to tell you. I'll just nip away and fucking kill myself. It's never simple. It's never simple. The problem is when we look at allowing someone to die. Very difficult. I believe it should be every adult's right to decide how the end of their life should be. I'm not sure about some of the ones with Dignitas where you can just be tired of life. I don't know that that's really the best reason to check out, but if you have a terminal illness, you just don't want to have that dreadful end to your life where you're a burden on everybody and you have no control of your body or over your mind, and you think, no, I'm going to check out while I'm still on top. I think that should be every adult's choice. I think it gets harder with depression and mental illness a lot. I think my personal belief is the 17-year-old girl should not have been allowed to die. I can't move away from that. I'm trying, because my job here is to get people discussing and debating, but the truth is, I couldn't. I just couldn't. Like Graham said, and he's right, if she'd hated me for the rest of her life, I'd have still done everything so that she had a rest of her life to live, regardless of her feelings to me. But
that's what you want to do.
Yeah. I guess her parents saw things differently. It doesn't mean they're bad either. It just means, I don't know, I wouldn't even want to be in that situation. It's too much, that. It's way, way too much. Let us know your thoughts, though. Email us live at truewarning.tv or Skype in. Cherry, you look like